Good morning. I'm Sally Handley, author of the Holly and Ivy Cozy Mystery Series. Welcome to the first session of second quarter Mystery Book Club. And our moderator today is Claudia Long. And Claudia is the author of 7 books. Is that correct, Claudia?
I think at this point you had 7.
7 novels. And you have written books that span centuries and topics that involve women a lot. Topics from Mexico during the Inquisition to women in the mining industry in 1753, women in the labor movement in 1920 San Francisco, and a topic that we're going to discuss today, the legacy of inherited trauma, which is I can't wait for our discussion to begin. So, Claudia, please feel free to add anything to your background that you would like our audience to know, and take it away.
Okay, it's a little it's very fun to moderate your own book, because I can ask myself questions. I can do things like, Claudia, why did you tell us a little more about your background. So I appreciate, Sally, you're moderating part way in the sense, otherwise I would be kind of like talking to myself. My background is as you stated. The thing is that the books that I've written that you've enumerated are, as you said, they're all centered on historical fact, but they're certainly the Zara and Lily mysteries are not historical fiction. The others are. And so what's interesting about my background that I want to add is that just as you'll find in the 9/10 of the Law and Our Lying Kin, and hopefully Sisters at an Exhibition, which is the 3rd book in that series, is that some of this comes from my own background as the daughter of a Holocaust survivor, and some of it comes from talking to so many people who come at things from different ways than I do, whose family histories are completely different, whose points of view, politics, ideas are all different from mine. And you find a thread that, the suffering doesn't stop at the sufferer. It carries through the generations, but in different ways. So that's a part of my background that I think really has a lot to do with writing, certainly 9/10, but in a way, all of them. So does that answer your question?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, where are you going to begin?
Okay. I want to talk a little bit. First of all, I want to show you my coffee cup, which is a coffee cup with the 9/10 of the Law covering. Okay, and I have coffee cups with every one of my books, and I choose according, according to what I'm doing that day. I want to first of all, did everybody who's on the screen have a chance to read it yet? Because I know in my book club, usually about half people haven't read the book. It's everybody's read it, right?
You've read it, yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure of your rules of your book club, but it's okay to talk about the end, right?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Even if people haven't read it. Okay, that's the deal in our book club too, that I've been in for. We just figured it out almost 20 years. That if you haven't read it, you can still come to the meeting, but you can't complain about spoilers.
Right.
So I think the place to start with 9/10 is why I wrote the book. And I'll tell you about that. And then I'm going to ask you all to share your thoughts on the subject, because book club is a discussion, not a monologue, not a Claudia monologue. Although I could talk for an hour because I've done it and just, tell me to stop. The reason I wrote this book, after having written about, as you said, Sally, Mexico during the Inquisition, starts, my Josefina Sin starts in 1690. So, I mean, going way back in time, all of those things, the reason I wrote this particular book was my mother was a Holocaust survivor, and during my entire time until she died in 2014, I could not say those words. We were a family that never talked about it. It was, we all knew, and we all knew that she had gone through the war, and we all knew that terrible things had happened. I mean, I knew I didn't have grandparents, so I mean, it was obvious, you know. Her parents were killed, her aunts and uncles were killed, her cousins were killed, and she was the only survivor. Okay, so we knew that, and we knew that if the Nazis marched into Warsaw in 1939, that would have made her 13 years old. You know, we also knew she was beautiful. And, you know, common sense tells you that, and the war ended when she was 18. So her entire teenage years were during that time. And she survived. And she was a very, very emotionally scarred human being. There were also physical scars, but we didn't understand that till later. And so during that time where we could never talk about it, we could talk about anything. We talked about anything in the world in that house, but never the war. It didn't take a lot to figure out that a beautiful teenage girl had suffered terrible abuse. And so as you know, when my mom died, she died of Alzheimer's. So the last 10 years of her life were sketchy at best, you know. And a year later, because in our tradition, the year marker after somebody dies is something where you place a headstone or whatever you're going to do. My dad sat down at the table with me out here in California. He flew out from New York. And he sat down with me at the table and he said, I want to tell you your mother's story. And I turned my phone on to record, and he talked for 2 days, basically, and told me her story. Okay. Now, this was my dad's view of my mother's story, right? It was filtered. It was, first of all, what, at that point, 65 years later, between 65 and 70 years later, it was what she had told him about what happened, because he wasn't there. He was in the American Army. He was, you know, he wasn't there with her. He was in the war, but he was actually in Asia, so it wasn't even the same area. But he told me his version of her story, and some of the things I already knew, and some of the things I didn't know. And my sister knew some of them. We talked about that later, but we knew different things. And then he said to me, I want you to write her story. You're a writer. Write her story. Well, I mean, I have suns in my eyes, but don't worry about it, because this is what happens. You should have seen the eclipse. Anyway, so I thought to myself, can I write her story? It's not mine to tell. How can I write her story? Pretend I'm her? That would be ridiculous. And then I realized I could write the story of her survivors. And so I thought, well, let's do that. And I talked it over with my sister. I do have a sister, and that's the second most frequently asked question about this mystery series. Do you have a sister? I talked it over, and she said, sure, go ahead and write a story that has two sisters, but don't make them like us. I'm like, okay, I won't do that.
That would have been another question.
Yes. And we could talk, I would love to talk about that, but and so I sat down and I thought, okay, what would I write about? And when I was 21, I took a year between college and whatever I was going to do with my life, which turned out to be law school. And I stayed home and I taught English at the high school I was a teaching assistant, but I was teaching English as a second language. So it didn't matter whether was credentialed or not. I was just in there working with the kids at that time. Things are different now, obviously. But and I lived with my parents, and my mom got like a blood clot in her leg and had to have her leg up for a while, and then she had to walk a lot. So she actually took me to the Jewish Museum in New York City. And she said, there's something I want to show you. That part is absolutely true to the fact. And she took me up to the menorahs and pointed one out and said, we had one just like that. And I was an idiot. I didn't catch on at all. I was so self-centered, so self-involved. I was like, oh, all right. Okay. All right. Yeah, we had one just like that. Okay. All right, cool. Be an idiot. And let's go have lunch. And it dawned on me when I started this book that this was hers. And this was a piece of her past that she'd never thought to reclaim. Now, in 1970, nobody was talking, or 1970, that was 76. Nobody was talking about repatriating art, and nobody was talking about claims that people could make. It was all like, possession was 9/10 of the law. And that's where I kind of decided on the title. So we didn't do anything about it, but I thought that's the basis of my mystery. And so that's why I wrote the book. So there you go. What do y'all think?
I thought it was fascinating. All of it was
Oh.
tragic. Well done. Very
Thank
well done. I congratulate you.
Thank you. Did the story in the background, the story of Aurora and her life and her effect on Sarah and Lily, did that come through beyond the mystery?
I
Oh,
think so.
Yeah, I think so too. Absolutely. The relationship with the sisters also was, so real. Um, they're so different, and you had to really enjoy both of them. Um, but there were several things that hit me with great force. The idea of inherited trauma, I had never heard that term before. And I thought, so many of us, in a very mild form, we're told as children, like eat your vegetables because there are starving children over there. And it's like,
Right.
it's kind of like we're supposed, but also how many times do you catch yourself going, oh, what am I feeling sorry for myself about because of something? There's so many people who have it worse than me. And we do, like, how do you balance that so that you experience your pain and give yourself credit for what you're suffering through, even though you recognize that, you really don't have it all that bad, and other people have it worse. One thing that I didn't know that I thought was fascinating, the idea that Jewish people don't give their names. The
I
idea
didn't know
that
that.
somebody giving your name gives people a power over you, and I had never heard that before.
I
And the
Let me stop you for a second, Sally, because that's when you say Jewish people, there aren't many. I mean, there's only, all told, all over the world, probably 23 million, which is about the size of the greater New York metropolitan area. So in the entire world, but we're extremely diverse group. And so not all, this is something that's particular to some groups, okay, is the not giving your name thing.
Well, I have a friend who's Sicilian, and she says, "Yes, I agree with that completely." So
Yeah.
so there are other nationalities
Absolutely.
that think that way too. But I think that the most profound thing that struck me was, and it reminded me of having read Toni Morrison's Beloved, when I was shocked that the other slaves cast out the main character because she murdered her children rather than have them become enslaved. And the thing was, who do you think you are? That
Mhm.
you're better, that you deserve that. Why didn't you just die? And the idea that there would have been certain people who felt that the character should have just gone along with everybody else, that she wasn't, what made her think she was better than anybody else, uh, and and uh, and that drive to stay alive no matter what she had to do. She was
Mhm.
going to stay alive, which
Mhm.
is something that, like I certainly appreciate. But that was, it reminded me very much of that. I never would have thought that anybody could think that way, to say, well, you're no better than anybody else. You should have gone
Mhm.
to the gas chamber quietly
Mhm.
like the rest of us. So
Mhm.
that was very moving to me, to that realization, and what impact it has on you when that's being aimed at you. So that was very
Mhm.
powerful.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. The um, the problem with a book like this is it is fiction. Okay. And so what prompts me to respond to what you said, yeah, is fact, unfortunately. I want to respond with, well, these are some of the things that I know about from my mother's experience, from so many, there's groups of us that discuss inherited trauma. There's all these different things. I, the fictional Aurora is different, but I'm going to kind of take you at your word here and say that in reality, there were so many different reactions. Neither Aurora nor my mother were heroes. And it was hugely important to me not to make Aurora a hero and not have her either save other people or be so incredibly brave that she was able to withstand inhuman pain, like although others succumbed. No, I didn't want any of that. I wanted her
I
to be
thought she
somebody,
was a
like you
hero.
said. Pardon me?
I thought she was a hero because she faced what she had to do and she did it.
That's a different definition of hero to me. Um, a personal hero, yes, my own personal hero, absolutely. But the idea that we want we want fictional characters, in my mind anyway, have to be greater than real in order to be interesting. Because otherwise, okay, this morning I had rice checks for breakfast. And then it's like you have the most boring life on earth. But you want your character, right? To be able to do things or to withstand things or to overcome things that are greater than life. But in reality, people do, like you said, Ellis. You a hero isn't really somebody who jumps over cars and rushes into burning buildings necessarily. A hero is also somebody who does everything they can to survive against great odds. But that's a different definition. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so one of the things, and I've tried to avoid, politics, etc. But in our current moment is, it's a very difficult time for many people and for the Jews right now. It's an extremely difficult time um, because of what's going on in Israel and in Gaza. And so one of the things that is notable to me in a sense is, um, Dara Horn's People Love Dead Jews. You know that book? It's either you need to be dead or a hero. Can't be fallible, can't be wrong, can't be mistaken, can't be angry, can't be hurt, can't be, um, you know, vengeful, can't be traumatized. You have to either be dead or a hero. And that is dehumanizing. And so what I wanted to do here was humanize Aurora and make her choices reasonable to somebody who's never been through that. And so that, yes, I'm sorry, go ahead, Darlene.
So, this is a subject that's very hard to keep fresh because there's so much that has been written about it. But you captured it. I had so much empathy for those sisters and their quest and what happened to them in the book that it really moved me. And I'm not easily moved, to be honest with you. I did not realize that your mom was a Holocaust survivor, and God bless her. But yeah, you really managed to capture the whole essence of what a Holocaust survivor would feel.
Well, thank you. That's extremely kind. And I can't tell you, I mean, this is so amazing to hear all, you and everybody react like this. It's so, that's why you write, right? Because you want to move people or inform, move, entertain, all those wonderful things all at once. Let me address something, that Sally, you mentioned also in the book, the minimizing of your own personal pain that Zara feels, but Lily doesn't.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons to do it that way was because there are different reactions by different people, and they're both valid, And so I wanted to show that two people brought up by the same person could have very, very different reactions based on their own personalities. Because otherwise, like I said, it becomes almost dehumanizing, rubber stamping, the experience of one is the experience of all, kind of like when all of one group is blamed for the bad action of a single person of that definition, and it doesn't happen. You don't say, okay, all looking around, all late middle-aged or middle-aged white American people. We don't say that. They do this, they do that. But you take one of a smaller group who does something, and all of a sudden it's like, all those people are bad or good, whatever, So I wanted to show that there are different reactions, different personalities, different experiences for each individual, regardless of the defining identity that we give somebody. Anyway, yeah.
Well, I adored Lily. I thought she was just such a great character, and she had, correct me if I'm saying this incorrectly, chutzpah.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. Lily is all chutzpah. Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, she just was fearless, and you know what, it's so funny. We're focused on like what the essence of the book is and what you managed to do with the the Holocaust aspect of it, but the mystery is also, like really, we're not talking about that at all, but the idea of how these women set about, investigating this when they had no authority whatsoever to walk in anywhere and ask the questions that they asked. And I love Lily for that, because she just
She just ran with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever
Yeah.
came up. She was great.
The thing about Lily is she gets all the best lines, and
Yes.
the book's being made into a movie, right? So
Oh, congratulations on
thank you.
that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It was optioned
Please
for
keep
film.
us posted about it.
Yeah, but here's the thing about an option for a film, okay? You get your little option check. And then about 75% of those never get made. All right. So the script was written, the script is winning awards. I did not write the script. Script writing is completely out of my wheelhouse, But when I read the script, they changed a whole bunch of stuff to make it more modern. I only had veto power. I was able to veto on a few things. I was able to say absolutely no guns, because there are no guns in this book, there's no shoot 'em up. the cops don't come in and save them at the end, not happening. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, but I looked at the script and I said, wait a minute, Lily got all the best lines here. Zara is being, kind of sent off to the side a bit. And the script writers said, well, in the book, she also has all the best lines. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So yeah, she's a character. That was super fun to write, Lily. I do have a sister, okay, and we are not quite Irish twins, but pretty close to it. She's a year older than I am. You can't really tell just by looking at me from on the screen, but I'm about 5'3", and don't weigh all that much. And my real sister in real life is, well, she's probably shrunk down to 5'9" now, and she's got dark hair that she dyes to keep it really dark, and she's at this point she's 70 because I'm 69. So, but and she's real tall and well endowed, shall we say. And she runs for office every election period. She doesn't win, but she runs for office. And
Is she a flirt?
she is a, but she always asks me, okay, how, when I come from a book club or something, well, how do they like the promiscuous sister, and she's a flirt, but she's not promiscuous, because, at 70, it's hard to be promiscuous, I mean, she'd be willing to give it a try, but
Yeah, I think if anybody could manage it, I think she could.
yeah, but needs must, but so she is the model in that sense for Lily, but she's a much more level-headed, well-centered human being, Lily's kind of fun. And I loved writing Lily. I mean, anytime you needed somebody to go in and do something, but that's that part of the book where they go to the museum and the information desk person doesn't let them in, and she goes, okay, we're just going to go in by going around the side and going up the stairs. My real sister in real life would absolutely do that. So it was so fun to write that stuff,
The interesting thing about her too is, she's the flirtatious one, and, she's into her creature comforts and all of that.
Mhm.
But in the end, when she's the one who suffers greatly from the villain, and she rebounds like, she's pretty tough. She's underneath all that honey and cream. She's a tough cookie.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was, it is a mystery, and so our characters have to be larger than life in that sense. They have to be able to, um, I haven't had the pleasure yet. I'm going to write down all your names. Sally, of course, I have your books. I haven't started yet, but I will. But we have to have our characters, especially our sleuth, be able to take a beating, keep on clicking, I mean, which in real life, I mean, I tripped on the sidewalk and I was sidelined for 2 months, I mean. So yeah, the funny part about that is that when they investigate, because it's a mystery, there's certain rules we kind of have to follow, there has to be, are you all plotters, pantsers? We can talk about that. I'm pantser.
Answer, definitely.
More
about you,
of a
Darlene? Are you
pantser. I'd like
pantser?
to be a little more plotter, but
You're pantser. John, are you plotter or pantser? You're on mute, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
Definitely a pantser. I find it if I try to plot too much, because as I write, the story changes, right? I'll be writing along and I'll say, well, that doesn't work. So I'm doing something else. I can't plot. It just doesn't work for
It
me.
doesn't work for you, huh?
Like a living document, you know.
Yeah. And Darlene,
Besides,
you
I hate outlining. I hated it through school. I'm no good at it. So
what about
I'd be wasting my time.
you, Darlene? Are you a plotter or pantser?
I'm kind of a combination.
Hmm.
But like John says, when I start writing, I mean, things change, but I have certain incidents that I want to put in. I'm just not sure where.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That
Makes perfect sense. And for 9/10, one of the things that, okay, I have to admit, first of all, not only am I a plotter, but I have detailed outlines, and my outlines have outlines.
Wow.
And sub outlines as well, of course, and index cards. And I am an intensely a plotter. But as John said, you start writing and the characters do exactly what they want, regardless of really 8-page outlines sometimes. I mean, I am really a plotter. And so if like Lily decided to go up through the back stairs there, which I had not planned her to do, and just go up to the offices anyway, and go in the elevator with that lady with the tag. I was like, I hadn't planned her to do that. So I had to write that scene, and then I had to go back to my outline and insert that and revise the outline so that it worked with it. And so I mean, I am a little bit of a maniac about the plotting, but one of the things was, as we all know, whether we're plotters or pantsers or hybrids halfway in between, is that when we write our mysteries, there has to be the defining incident or the inciting incident. Then there has to be the desire not to investigate, the force to investigate, the first challenge, the sidekick, the second challenge, the great challenge, the all seems lost, the final triumph, and the return to normality, right? So we have to do all that, right? And so when where was I going with that? Anyway, so it's like every big scene, it seemed like it was Lily doing everything, even though the story is told by Zara. And so I was like, wait a minute, why is Lily the hero of this thing? She's not supposed to be, because you may have noticed that in the characters, which of the two would be the outlining plotter with the sub outlines and index cards? Zara, right? And so who do I identify with? Sarah. So she's not getting to do anything cool at all. All she's doing is following Lily around like a puppy dog, like she did all through her childhood. And so it's like, okay, Claudia, how much of this is, projection here? Let's dial it back a little bit. And then I realized, but underneath it, Zara's sneaky. And so she's the one who's going to figure it out. She's the one who's going to go off to New Jersey. She's the one who's going to ultimately find Lily and rescue her. And it was super important to me in writing this that Zara rescues Lily in the end. Not in the end, but in the forest.
I thought it was believable the way Lily kind of quietly directed the action, even though Zara directed, but Lily's the one that jumped in and did whatever needed to be done right then.
Yeah,
But
she's
I
the
thought
doer,
they worked well.
She
Yeah,
was also easily distracted by men.
yes.
She got off track. I have a question for you, Claudia. You said that seeing the menorah with your mother was a very real thing. And did you ever attempt to? No, yeah.
No, and because we saw it in 1976 or
Mm.
77. It was, that school year, the year I stayed home. And at that time, people weren't doing that sort of thing. They were, and it
Right.
was in a museum. I don't even remember if it was a special collection or it was a special exhibit or anything like that. That's all kind of, but the Jewish Museum in New York does have the biggest collection of menorahs, in any museum. And it's amazing. If you look online, it's spectacular. And so, in the reality of it is that I could not identify that. I have no, vaguely I remember what it looks like, and I did have the ring, which I have actually momentarily displaced, but the ring was real. And so there's, no, and I have,
Yeah.
But if you keep up with the news in that area, which, once you start thinking about it, it's everywhere, like any other
Yeah.
topic. So much of that repatriation and return to the original owners went on, has been going on for the past 20 years or so, very intensely. And, but it's interesting because it's not a big painting that everybody would know. It's not that one thing that ended up so badly there with the museum in Spain and everything like that. It's just a little personal thing. It
Yeah.
wasn't even,
But the ring was real. You have it.
it's somewhere and I cannot find it right now. And I'm furious about that. But yes, it is real. And yes, yes, it is real.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, the ring is real.
That was
But
such a great connection between the menorah, and it really made it so realistic,
Yes.
because it's so hard to trace back a lot of this stolen art and treasures that people had.
yeah,
Some of it was cataloged, some of it was not, just taken.
yeah.
Yeah,
It depends.
Great job.
I can't imagine how difficult it is to actually mount a claim, especially for a personal item as opposed to a famous painting that
Right,
people
right.
might recognize and have proof that they owned it. But
Yeah.
that is, it has to be a task as difficult as it was in the book that you wrote, for sure.
And I think it would be even harder in real life. Although in the Contemporary Jewish Museum here in San Francisco, they did have on display the elaborate bookkeeping that went on with what they took from
They were
different.
known for that, weren't they? They're
Yeah, well, yeah,
records.
exactly. The parallels between, and this was interesting writing it. I mean, we're talking about me writing it as opposed to the book, but because I had written 3 books before about women in the Inquisition eras in Mexico, I was just overwhelmed with the parallels of note keeping and bookkeeping, because the reason we know so much about the Inquisition was because they kept meticulous records. I mean, meticulous records. And guess who else did? And so to me, that was such a chilling discovery of the parallels. And when I was I was at the museum here in San Francisco and looking at the books and poring over them, trying to read what I could read, and I don't read German, but my sister does. There you go again, right? And so I was like taking pictures and sending it to her in New York and having her take a look and everything. How incredibly detailed that was. And I was horrified. I was really horrified, because it's so cold and calculating and deliberate and dehumanizing, I mean, ugh. So anyway, and I think one of the things I wanted to come through in the book was about talking about that, about the Holocaust era, about World War II, was that the there were no authorities to call, they were the authorities. In other words, when something happens here, so I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call the cops. At least they'll come, even if they don't believe me or they're not nice to me or whatever. I'm calling the police. Okay. But they were the police. There was no rescue to be had. There was no place to turn. And that's the real horror of it. And it went on for 6 years. Actually, it went on longer than that because it really, 1937, there was a lot of stuff already going on. So I don't know. I wanted that to come through somehow in the Aurora parts, that there's nowhere to turn. Nobody's going to save you.
Oh, I think it did come, especially when, you realize that young women were just, used in any way that somebody felt like using them on a particular day. There was no recourse.
No.
No one could protect them. Their fathers couldn't protect them. Their brothers couldn't protect them. They were just pawns.
Yeah.
Boys were victims too.
Who
In
were-
whatever way, young
Yes.
boys were victims.
Oh, right.
In whatever way they wanted to use them.
Right.
As slaves.
Absolutely. And that's something,
Slaves.
we all take into account, that, gypsies, and we don't use that word now, I guess we use traveling people or Roma, boys, homosexuals, intellectuals, anybody who wasn't going with the program, and whoever just happened to be living out in the country, people were victims. It was not just the Jews, but it's kind of like being a woman in a way, Yes, men are victims too, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, I don't mean to just talk right, without regard to you, but, and we're all a bit older now, maybe more cautious, but 4 out of the 5 of us have always looked at what cars are parked next to us in the parking lot before we go to park our car.
Yeah.
Always. We just do it. We don't even think about it. Okay, I'm good,
Don't park next to vans.
That's the story, but I park next to a van all the time, but I've seen the
But now
meme.
they're all vans just about. So.
Right. I used to drive a minivan, so it's kind of hard when you're in the suburbs not to park next to all the minivans. But with full of lacrosse gear and a bunch of kids, and but yeah, because we all have had experiences that leave us either shaking or shaking our heads, and so it's like that. You know what I mean? It's not that only women are attacked, but that first choice. If I had to attack a guy or a gal, I'd probably attack the gal, it's easier. And so, there's that. So I think that's kind of the feeling. But so if I were moderating, I'd say, tell me more, tell me more about what you're thinking about the mystery, because I mean this is a mystery club, so I don't even remember the mystery anymore. To me, this is just the characters,
Well, I thought that, you did have your share of suspects, like the rabbi who was rather hapless, to be honest, right? He was.
Oh no, he's the bookkeeper. He wasn't actually the rabbi. Lev Zimmerman.
Oh, right. Yeah,
right.
Lev Zimmerman, right. Okay. So, I mean, he was an interesting character, but at first like when you first
He's a
learned about
suspect. Yeah.
you thought that he most definitely was involved in this scam. And the villain, whose name I don't remember,
Walter Rosen. Walter
Rosen. Yes, what a despicable character. I mean, to to pretend that he was Jewish
Yes.
and get the position that he held was just, so despicable. So yeah, you were really happy to see him get what was coming to him. So yeah, it was a very satisfying resolution to the mystery. So yeah, absolutely. And it kept you it, it's so funny as a writer, sometimes in your critique group, somebody will say, "Oh, you've got too much backstory in there." But this was like half backstory, but it was
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was just what kept pulling you through. It's like you wanted to know what was happening, both in the backstory as well as in the mystery. So no, I thought it was great.
I thought
So-
you did a good job making Rosen seem charming and nice in the beginning. I did not suspect him
Right.
Hmm.
until much later.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Yeah.
well done.
I had a comment on your backstory. Backstory, there's nothing wrong with backstory if it relates to something in the book. Your backstory gives a history of what's going to occur down the road. It's just bad when it's just filled with facts that are not needed. So
Yeah.
if you did use backstory, sounds to me like it was done properly, and it has a place in writing,
Yeah,
even though my
absolutely.
editor tells me no.
Right. Right. It depends. Yeah.
Exactly.
But if so, John, you haven't had a chance to read it yet.
No, I haven't.
Okay,
No.
I hope you will, because it would be interesting to hear your take maybe next month, when we talk about this, next month is a Thursday morning.
Thursday thing.
Thursday something, I'm sorry.
Thursday Murder Club.
Murder Club, thank you, yeah. So, yeah, it's in a sense, I didn't, when this got classified, I mean, my publishers are, the main editor is a very interesting person. And he's the one who said, well, this is, obviously categorized as a mystery. And I was like, really? I guess so, yeah. And I mean, I knew I was writing a mystery, but you know what I mean? To me, it felt like it missed the mark as a mystery. And he's like, no, I think you make it in there as a mystery, but you're right, John, it's more backstory, and Ellis is more backstory than most mysteries, because
Yeah.
it's a sister's book with a mystery running through it, Um, yeah.
Well, I thought it was realistic in the sense that, a lot of people, they not necessarily want to take action right away when someone's missing, especially if they're used to doing their own thing. And she wasn't living near the sister. I mean, there were a lot of facts that you included in it that would make the story realistic.
Mhm.
You know, um, I thought the timeline was interesting. I was wait. The timing was. I was just about thinking, I want to see a mystery, and that's when you. It's funny. That's when you started in with that particular phase of the book. So
Yeah.
I thought that part was well done.
Well, thanks. Yeah, that was probably should have been earlier. I mean, you know how after you write the book and it's been out a while, you kind of forget about it and everything, and then you're talking about it and you think, wow, I should have done this or I should have done that. I could barely stand to read my own books, because it's like, really, Claudia, you had to say it? No, come on. Where was your editor? Jeez, But the my favorite part of the book, and then you can tell me your favorites, okay? My favorite part of the book is actually the Chinese food. That I love writing that part. That was my favorite part of the book.
I have to say, having lived in northern New Jersey and worked in Manhattan for 25 years, the New York stuff, I just was eating up. And the delis, the restaurants, the ordering food in is such a New York thing that I loved it. I love that. I love that part of it too.
Yeah, but my favorite, like I said, the last bit with the last Chinese food at the end.
Oh, right.
Yes, I guess it doesn't matter if we spoil it for John, right? But Yeah, where she ordered, they're bringing back the Chinese food on Christmas Day, which is a very Jewish thing to do, by the way.
Yeah.
I have
Extremely
friends who
so,
do that.
you know, and of course, Rosen is allergic to shrimp, so.
That was just perfect. And of course, Lily knew that. That was great.
Yes,
That was
yes.
great.
And
You
of
know, I
course, shrimp is not kosher, right? So you have to like, they're like eating treif, they're eating, they're ordering things that they're,
right.
pork, shellfish, and the whole thing is like, for that you eat out.
I had to read this comment from Peg Roach. She said, I'm just finishing Claudia's book and have really enjoyed it. The history and family relationships and the humor. So she wanted me to make sure I mentioned that. And someone who also commented was Vicky Weisfeld from PSWA, and she had read your book and she read the Mystery Club, and she's apologized that she couldn't join us because she's traveling. But she too said she liked the book very much, 9/10 of the Law.
That's great. Well, I would really appreciate a couple of things. One is please post reviews.
I
We're
did.
all writers. You did?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I did too. I usually
Uh,
do it immediately.
It's amazing. We're all writers. We know we should, please, please, please tell your friends, buy my book, probably, post reviews. The next book in the series is Our Lying Kin. I don't know if I can do this here. Nope, that's not going to work. Anyway, Our Lying Kin, which is like Lion Kin, but Lion King, But that's book 2 in the Zara and Lily series. And that one is written, again, a lot of backstory, John, a lot of flashbacks, and it's written like a family photo album. And so it describes, there's a plot, obviously, and there's an actual real life mystery that's sort of more mystery charted, because then I was doing it more on purpose. And but it's written with looking at, as if you were looking at pictures or diary entries or things like that. And so Sarah and Lily too. And the third one, which is Sisters at an Exhibition, but that is stalled right now because my publisher, of course, is in Israel, and obviously they're not publishing books right now. They're so it either will come out with a different house or a different, or I'll wait. And then next month we have the Thursday Murder Club, which again features sleuths of a certain age. And I encourage you to read that because that's super fun.
I just
And,
started it last night. Yeah.
I've read all of them in the
I love it.
series, and I'm kind of like Darlene. I'm kind of a hard nut, I don't get emotional about things at all. But the last one in the series, I actually cried.
Oh.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just a piece of wood when it comes to emotions. And that was like, oh,
Okay.
I also was glad that you included some of the effects from the Holocaust, as far as, how your mother felt, how the daughters felt being, daughters of a survivor from the Holocaust. I thought that added a very special touch to the story.
Mhm. It's the inherited trauma thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also explored in Our Lying Kin in a different way. We only have a couple minutes. Can I ask all of you something?
Sure.
As mystery writers, I have a real problem killing characters. I cannot kill characters. How do you, what's the secret?
I
Oh,
haven't
you
found
base
it.
them on somebody you really don't like. I honestly, I do that. Like I have a person I really don't like, and that is my murder victim.
Is that what you, that's interesting, yeah, because I keep thinking like, what about the family and how do they feel and, you know, their children and their aunties and nephews and how traumatic it would be and how it would wreck the whole family and how they'd
Oh,
never.
gosh, yeah, no,
recover.
I never think about that.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
really think
I
about
don't
that.
think
killed a
that-
character that I
I'll
liked,
tell you,
and I had a
I
terrible
have no
time
problem
doing
at
it.
all getting off characters. I've killed
Yeah.
off my main character's partners twice, so
Ooh.
just don't kill the dog.
Don't kill the
Don't
dog, okay.
No.
kill the dog.
No,
People get incensed over that, but human life is, I guess, apparently is not as important.
Yeah,
But if it fits the story, it can't all be flowers and happy days and all that. But if it fits the story, if it enhances the story along, especially where the protagonist is concerned, then I have no problem with it. I don't just arbitrarily kill him off. It's for a reason to advance the story.
right.
Also, I'm writing cozy mystery, so I'm never describing the murder. It
Mm.
always has happened, and the body, somebody discovers a body. And
Mhm.
so, you don't really, well, I did kill off a character a little later on in the book, which is the last book that I wrote. But usually, like it's the body's just a given, and you don't feel the necessarily any real attachment to that character.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've
I'm
had
about
my,
I'm into my I'm sorry, I'm into my ninth book, about halfway done, and I'm about to kill off my protagonist's new boyfriend. It's another police officer.
Oh,
I mean, that sounds really bad, but
yeah.
Yeah.
it'll enhance the story down the line. It's setting the scene for things to come. So, and let's face it, that happens. It happens.
Yeah. But
I
if,
killed off somebody and my critique group had a fit. They all said, I would put the book down. I wouldn't even finish it if you're going to kill him.
Oh,
And I did, I saved him, and I'm glad I did. I felt much better.
well, his life value was almost that of a dog.
Oh, even more so. He and the dog are about equal.
Yeah,
Never kill an animal.
right.
That's funny.
Well, the one partner that I did kill off, turns out that a little bit of a spoiler here, that he's one of the bad guys.
Mhm.
Okay, he's a corrupt cop, so that made it a little easier, to
Right.
I
get
don't
rid of
mind
the bad
killing
guy.
the bad guys. I don't
Yeah.
dwell on it, and it's usually gunshots. It happened, but
Yeah.
I don't need to see it and dwell on it. But
Right.
I don't mind killing them.
I just like, I have this resistance to it. I mean, I'm willing to engage in trauma, but I'm not willing to, kill people off. It's so hard to do. I had to kill off Marie Goldberg. It was so, okay. All right, let's not give her any family, just I was so upset. I couldn't kill Rosen at the end, I had to have the paramedics come.
Ah.
It was like, well, and he makes an appearance in book 2, so it made it worthwhile. But
Oh, wow. But he deserved to die. He
he
really did.
did, but I'm just
Wow. Yeah. You have a soft heart.
For someone who's not emotional, you seem to be.
I just like
There
to
you
think, I like to think of myself as not emotional. Well, we're
I
running
can
out
try
of time.
commercials.
Hmm?
The Budweiser Clydesdales get me. But I don't mind killing people in the book.
There you go. One or the other, can't have it both ways. I guess we're out of time, Sally.
We're right at the top of the hour. Actually, we're about 3 or 4 minutes over. So this was a great discussion. Thank you all for participating, and look forward to seeing you all next month.
I
See you
enjoyed it
next
very much.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
thank
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you for the
I'll be
book.
moderating next month, so we can
Yeah.
talk about other people's books. All right, thank
Okay.
you, Sally.
So we could still talk about you.
Right.